Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Game Cafe. And tonight we're doing another episode in the Spotlight series. And tonight we're going to spotlight one of my favorite fighting games from the '90s, Killer Instinct. Tonight I got with me Zen. How you doing tonight, Zen?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Ready to talk some Killer Instinct.
All right, and we got the number one KI fanboy next to me, Shadow.
What's the problem with Killer Instinct being the greatest game in the world? I'm sorry. What's the problem with that? But anyway, Shadow 5-7, and I'm here, man.
All right, all right. Now, we're gonna break this up into like three parts. We're gonna start with a little short synopsis. Then we're gonna go after we get through doing the short synopsis. We're gonna go into the characters, and then we're gonna do a wrap up. So tonight, I'm gonna let Shadow Fox handle the short synopsis of basically the series as a whole, and he's gonna start that now. Take it away.
All right. So, Killer Instinct was a collaboration between Rare, Midway, and Nintendo back in 1994, and their goal was to interrupt the fighting game market with their own brand. Apparently, this had been an in joke inside the Nintendo treehouse for several years, and they had been playing around with things to the point where all the characters were pretty much stereotypes. So you had a fire being by the name of Meltdown, who eventually became Cinder. And the game was originally called Brute Force because it was the only title they had at the time that wasn't heavily under copyright that they could go out there and use temporarily. But it's one-on-one fighting game, and the goal was to have some of the realistic look and some of the violence of Mortal Kombat, but still have the essence of, say, like a Street Fighter game, while focusing on some different gameplay aspects. In this game, it was particularly, the focus was on doing combos or combinations, if you will. And I don't know if anybody knows any of the backstory or any of that kind of stuff, but the first combo in a fighting game was actually an accident by Capcom. It was a programming error that somebody used as basically as a glitch or a exploit, if you will, within the game. The first 2-in-1 was done with Ryu, which was basically a down punch into a fireball. Well, Killer Instinct is based on doing combos, and that entire series has relied on that and expanded upon a combo system, if you will, like an entire engine built off how to do combos throughout the entire franchise. So from the very beginning, from Killer Instinct 1 to Killer Instinct 2 to I guess you could call it Killer Instinct 3, Killer Instinct 1.5, the Xbox One version, the focus is entirely on combos. But it doesn't necessarily mean the game is about combos. You could literally have an entire match without anybody doing a single combo, or a single automatic combo, and the game is all manual hits and special moves. So going from Killer Instinct 1, which is kind of more of a Mortal Kombat, kind of maybe a slower feel, and a little bit dark and brooding, to Killer Instinct 2 was kind of a drastic change, because there was a lot of added colors, newer characters, and basically the fighting system resembled more of Street Fighter than it did the old Mortal Kombat stuff. There are a lot of quarter circle motions and a lot of back forward motions, like Guile and Blanka and things, and E-Honda and things like that. So there's a lot of those, and the combat is just way faster. So it was dramatically sped up, but at the same point in time, some of the moves ended up being slower for particular reasons for balancing. They balanced the combos with a combo breaking system, where at one point it was basically you had to memorize certain attacks to know what level of what level of button you needed to press to break a combo. So in some cases, if somebody did a auto double with a heavy kick, you had to break it with a light punch in Killer Instinct 1. That kind of stuff was kind of simplified a little bit more in Killer Instinct 2, where you literally just break with whatever strength of the button it was. So That way you could just you can kind of gauge what somebody was doing. Um, that evolved a little bit more in the new Killer Instinct game, where you don't even have to do a special move uh, motion to do a combo breaker in Killer Instinct for Xbox One. You literally just mash two buttons together of the same strength, and that will give it to you if you time it right. Um, Now, what they did on that was, because they made the combo breaker so easy, they came up with other ways around that, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. But basically, Killer Instinct has gone from a Mortal Kombat meme or a Street Fighter meme to a legitimate fighting franchise in less than a year's time. So from 1994 to 1995, I mean, you had arcades and tournaments lit up with this game. So I personally was stuck to this game for the better part of, I want to say, 10 years after the last game, and kind of wanting a new one. And right before the new one came out, a lot of the additions to the game that were originally announced, I did not like until I actually played it. And once I got my hands on it, I'm stuck all in it all over again. It's like 1994 all over again for me. But I digress. Basically, the franchise has evolved, and a lot of people didn't like the way that it evolved, but it evolved for the better in a lot of ways. There are some minuses to that, obviously, but you gotta take some bad to go with the good, just like the changes from Killer Instinct 1 to Killer Instinct 2. So mainly the introduction of throws, but that's a whole other topic. We'll talk about it in another.
Yeah, that we're gonna have to save that one for the review if memory serves me correctly. 'Cause we still got to do that one later on. But all right, that was a good synopsis, man. I was saying it better than I would have did. All right. So basically, and capitalizing off that, we want to talk about like what the series means to us. And I want Zen, why don't you tell us what the series means to you?
All right, what the series means to me. Well, granted, I haven't touched Killer Instinct in well over a decade. Well over a decade. I mean, I've seen it being played at my friend's house and other random places, depends. But I haven't actually sat down with it for any period of time, maybe one game, two games. So I haven't played any dedicated Killer Instinct in quite some time. However, having gotten my hands on it again, a lot of those old feelings just began rushing back, man. Reasons why I would, take days off or play hooky from lessons or school, or hell, just not go to work when I started working, just so I could go play some Killer Instinct on SNES or Killer Instinct Golden 64. Getting my hands on this one, the reboot 2013, it brought all those feelings back and the fondness that I once had for the series. I mean, time has passed and the fondness kind of just leaked away. Shadow might call that blasphemy, but it's beginning to come back. I just ignored the dogs in the background. Stupid.
It's Saberwolf.
Yeah. So I have a deep fondness for this fighting game, particularly out of all the others that I've played, because it feels different. But the way in which it feels different is very weird, because it takes a lot of different elements from a bunch of other games, mashes them all together, and becomes its own thing, forging its own identity. So, as Shadow just very eloquently explained to you. So, for me personally, I love the series, and getting it back in my hands once again, all those feelings and moods and emotions and reasons why I did a bunch of things that I really shouldn't have done to play video games is beginning to come back.
All right. Well, look, my story goes a little bit like this. Actually, Killer Instinct was actually the first game I ever bought when I bought my own Super NES. That was I had the Killer Cuts pack. Yeah, so I actually had the CD with the black Killer Instinct game cartridge. And
I still have it.
I would still have it, but I played the hell out of that thing. I don't even know where it is anymore. That's how bad I played that thing in the ground. But it was one of those games where you like, because me personally, I didn't. Everybody else was always on Street Fighter, and I could never get into Street Fighter. Mortal Kombat, I liked it, but then again, that it was sometimes I kind of felt like the whole fatality thing kind of went too far. But Killer Instinct, when they introduced their combo system, it was something about that combo system, just stringing together a combo and just watching it play out, that you beating down your opponent with this ridiculous combo. It was like music to my ears. So that was one of those things where I'm sitting up here and I'm like, dang man, I'm actually having fun. So I'm trying to go through with all the characters, trying to figure out how to do all their combos. And Killer Instinct to me was the first fighting game to actually have a story that involved every character that was on the roster. Most fighting games, especially most fighting games back then, they had a story, but it only revolved around a few people. It didn't revolve around the whole roster. Killer Instinct 1 and 2 both revolved around the entire roster. That's why, to me, that's why one of the reasons why I think the roster was never that big. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think like the first Killer Instinct was only what
10 in both games.
10. Yeah, 10. Yeah, it was 10. And if somebody didn't make the cut in Killer Instinct 2, it was because they was dead.
Yep.
They died in the Killer Instinct 1, and I was like, they actually incorporated everybody on this roster into this story, and the story actually got me to where I'm like, okay, I was actually invested in the story of Killer Instinct as well as the fighting mechanic. And another thing that I enjoyed about the series, because I was a glutton for punishment on the SNES. Idol.
Yeah.
Cheatingest bastard I ever fought in the game. But I will say this: the only time I ever got an ultra combo was on Idol with Jago. That was the only time I ever pulled it off. The only time I ever pulled off an ultra combo was with Jago on Idol, and that's how I finally beat him.
Well, don't feel bad, because Idol on arcade mode is like 10 times as hard as it is on Super NES. And I wasted at least a good $20 trying to beat him one day.
Yeah. Oh, and that reminds me, like back in the day, because back in the '90s, arcades was the spot. Killer Instinct. Here's how I feel about it. Killer Instinct, the first one, I didn't like the arcade. I liked the SNES version. Killer Instinct 2, I loved the arcade more than I did the N64 version. Not to say the N64 version was bad, I just liked the arcade version better. If I could ever find that arcade box, I'll probably buy it if I could get my hands on it. Just because I felt the arcade version of Killer Instinct 2 was just way better than the N64 version. And those were like two of the games that I probably spent most of my time with in the arcade. It was Killer Instinct and maybe Afterburner.
Yeah, it was Killer Instinct for me. I actually fell for the hype. So it was Killer Instinct for me and Cruising USA. So I fell completely for the hype. And believe it or not, that game is still popular because it lives on in the Need for Speed franchise of those arcade games. The same graphics engine. And they still been using it for the past like 15 years. It's amazing.
Yep. So, saw it in a movie theater I was in the other last weekend. And people were playing it. People were on it.
People still play it.
Yep, they get in the car and I'm like, wow. So,
it's the same game. It's Cruising USA with Need for Speed cars in it. That's it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So yeah, that was the game. Did you ever play it in the arcade, Zen?
Yeah, I played in arcades, but that was only when we didn't actually have dedicated arcades here. Mm-hmm. Well, we had arcades in like malls, right? Like shopping malls.
Yeah.
So only if I ever went go there for another reason, well then I end up getting into the arcade. And really, man, after they changed from quarters to tokens, man, sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Just so they could charge you more. Yeah, that was kind of around the time where I said, you know what, I should probably just stick to home gaming, probably just visit the arcade and an excursion of some kind, and just not spend too much money here because it's just way too much. If I remember correctly, we still do have an arcade in the nearest shopping mall to here. If I remember correctly, it's like $3, maybe $4. per single token.
Ooh.
Ooh, nah, dude,
Yeah,
nah,
that's
hell
yeah.
no.
That's a lot of
Hell
money.
no. No, the devil is a lie. That's just not even cool.
No, it's not.
But yeah, that man, that's messed up. But yeah, the arcade scene was hot with Killer Instinct in that, and there was one other game in there, but I had to do a spotlight on that one at a later date about that particular game franchise as well. So it's safe to say that we all think that this game is always going to have forever a cult classic status. Now, would you attribute that to the combo system or the story? Shadow, what do you think?
I think it's everything. To me, I think it's actually the entire experience, particularly on the arcade side, because it was the loudest thing in the arcade.
Oh, hell yeah.
You walk in there, hyper combo, ultra, like yelling loud as hell, like ultra combo, and then you just look at the person you just beat, and they sink their head down.
Hey, they trying to walk out. They trying to slide out.
Oh my God. And it was just so visceral. And people always stood around when you played it because that attract mode was so damn loud. It was like, when Mortal Kombat 2 was hot, the arcade managers or whatever, they make sure that the sound was all the way up on that game. Because it was always a line, going to that game. But right around when MK2 started fading, people were gravitating to Killer Instinct, and it was getting so freaking loud. Like you would go into an arcade. It didn't matter anywhere. I could go anywhere in the United States, and no matter where I went, there was a Killer Instinct arcade machine. And if nobody was there, somebody would show up if somebody played that game.
Heck yeah.
So you'll be there, and people playing Tekken or whatever, or blah blah blah, and it's just kind of quiet in there. You can just hear like pinball machine noises, blah 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 blah. Time you put that token in Killer Instinct, it's like, dun. And people are looking around. It's like welcome, and so people are like, "Oh, who you gonna pick? Who you gonna pick?" Somebody standing there like, "I'm gonna play this guy. I'm gonna play this guy." And they step up, they put their machine in, and put their quarter in or whatever, and they getting started. And when you hear fight on, everybody's trying to look. Everybody in the arcade start gravitating that way, and they start looking. It was an attention getter. It was wild. It was visceral. It still has graphics that technically are not possible right now on the 3D hardware we have, because everything was ray traced. So even with like simple like polygonal models from way back in 1993, 94, like that quality, the lighting and all that stuff still can't be done in real time. It was pre-rendered obviously, but it can't be done in real time right now. So it was still ahead of its time even for right now if we wanted something real time. So nothing like that had ever really been seen before, with the exception of digital characters in Mortal Kombat. But everybody knew that was fake because it looked like cutouts. It looked like a video version of Photoshop. So
that is true.
to have a fully three-dimensional character that was computer generated on the background of a 3D generated area that was basically a bitmap, but it was a 3D generated area, and it moved like it was 3D, it parallax, or if it was on one of the 3D worlds that zoomed in and out, everything looked real as hell. So you have that, you have the sound, the voice acting, which was actually basically it was all the developers doing everything, but they did it with such high quality, it sounded like it was like a real Bloodsport movie or something. Like everybody. There was always yelling from the announcer. Everything was loud. Everything was a spectacle. Every combo was special. So, to me, that was the entire experience that started how popular at that time that game had become. And once it started, that game got me to go to Sunnyvale, California. Okay, and I'm on the East Coast. I went to Sunnyvale, California to play the first and the second game in tournaments. And the last game to get me to do that was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And I never really did that kind of stuff again. I never really felt compelled to go all the way across the United States to play anybody in a game like that before. Not in a very long time. So with I would say the story had a lot of things to do with it, because you want to advance the character story, because it was one of the first actually, I think it's still the only fighting game where characters have multiple endings. I want to say it's the only one. I think maybe Weapon Lord had different endings, maybe, but Killer Instinct, to my knowledge, is the only arcade fighting machine that had multiple endings. So, like, if you wanted to find out a different ending in Mortal Kombat, you had to beat it with a different character that was related to that character. So, if you want to know what happened to Liu Kang if shit went bad, beat the game with, like, Sindel or Katana. And if you want to see if things go good, you beat it with Liu Kang or, you know, whatever. Or one of his buddies, like Raiden or something. That's how you find out the good or the bad ending. But based on how you perform in the game in Killer Instinct, who you kill or who you don't kill, or who you do an ultra on or who you don't do an ultra on, ultimately affects the outcome of the game. So, well, I mean, Killer Instinct 2 basically did it. Like, it had me playing the game like 3 or 4 times with people over and over again just to see how the ending would change. And I'll be like, oh, it's something I screwed up because the ending's still the same. Or, you know, like you can have up to 3 different endings because you have a good ending, you have a bad ending, and then you have a so-so ending, which means that you killed your rival, but you also killed your buddy. Or you killed your rival and you saved your buddy, or you killed your buddy and you lost your rival. So those 3 different type of things can happen. And you're sitting there after you beat Gargus or whatever at the end of the game, like, it's not over. You're waiting for that ending. So it's definitely different it to me in that light. So it's the gameplay, it's the experience itself to me that kind of set it off, that made it a very different type of fighting game. Well, particularly with Killer Instinct 2, definitely, because it was like drastically different from anything else.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. And kids, this was before Michael Bay. Just remember that.
Oh yeah.
This is way before Michael Bay.
Explosion, steel, metal, like guitar just going loud as hell. And you talking about a dude from the hood, man. I don't like fucking rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. But that Killer Instinct thing started coming out, man. I'm listening.
Everybody had the head bobbing. I ain't gonna lie. Everybody had the head bobbing. So then. What about you? What do you think is going to allow it to maintain its cult status?
I would have to agree with Shadow Man, because if someone's playing Killer Instinct in a room or, as you said, in an arcade, attention just gravitates towards it. Just today, again, I put on Killer Instinct 2013, and all of a sudden, you know, I got 2 other persons in the house with me at that point in time, and they're like, "What are you doing? What is that? That sounds, you know, kind of cool." And they just come sit there and watch me just try to figure out the game again. So, you know, it has an attention-grabbing ability. I can't really say I had a game here that had that effect nearly as instantaneously as this one did, and that's because of the music, because of the visuals, because of how visceral, as he said, it is. That rock music comes on, and then you got this deep voice in there, Killer Instinct. You know, everything's just epic and just really, really, really well. The mood is very well done. A very grim mood, but at the same time, it isn't. How do I put it? It isn't as serious, or maybe the word might be depressing, as Mortal Kombat is. But it has that mood where you pay attention. It's exciting at the same time, but it conveys this very fun level of seriousness. If you understand what I'm saying, that I believe only Killer Instinct can capture. Street Fighter has a very arcadey vibe and is very lighthearted, I would say. But I think only Killer Instinct manages to get somewhere in between what the feeling, the vibe Street Fighter gives out, and the serious, dark, very grim, mature tone of Mortal Kombat. It's somewhere in between, but at the same time, it just grabs attention. As for the classic stuff, well, it's self-explanatory. It is self-explanatory. If you can string together a combo, 12-hit combo or whatever, and you got this other dude screaming in pain, and then you just go on and just beat the living crap out of him, knock him off the stage. I mean, just that stuff alone would get any passerby to say, "Damn, man, I mean, come on, you know, he eased the dude up." You know, you start feeling sorry for the guy on the other side. You know, usually, you know, someone wins, you're like, "Okay, cool, nice job," but in this case, you begin having sympathy for the other guy. It's like, wow. I mean, was all of that actually called for?
Especially when the ultra combo gets hit. Well, me personally, I think it's always going to have that cult status, and like you guys said, it is an attention grabber. That's basically what the game was for. I gotta give the guys at Rareware credit, because they actually, in my opinion, with just 2 games, pretty much created something that both Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter could not, and every other fighter for that matter, could not, you know, escape from. That was the combo system. Because after that, everybody had to put a combo system in their game. They didn't have a choice. They really didn't have a choice.
No, they didn't.
It wasn't going to be like, now they didn't go as far, you know, overboard like Killer Instinct. Because some of those Killer Instinct combos just they're nice to get out, but some of them do kind of go overboard. They didn't go overboard, but it forced every other fighter to put some type of combo system into their game. It forced them to make them stay relevant. So
think about it this way: Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 came out right after Killer Instinct came out, or Mortal Kombat 3 did. It had a limited combo system. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 got to the point where a combo was one of the fatalities called brutalities.
Yep.
So that was basically their ultra combo, and I mean, as Street Fighter started adding like way more hits into it, they started making it more possible to do hits in the game. Like instead of just Ken being able to do 12 hits because his fast ass hurricane kick, now you could just string together like 4 jabs in a corner and you'll get a 4-hit combo on somebody. And that wasn't possible before until Super Street Fighter 2.
Yep.
So
right.
So it changed the game for everybody. I mean, like Street Fighter 4 has ultra combos in it. How did they do that without getting sued?
I know. No. That part that will always forever baffle me. But okay, let's talk a little bit about the characters. Well, like we said, the characters in the first 2 were 10 apiece, and if you had a favorite character on there, some of the characters did not make it into 2, and that's just the truth. You know, some of them didn't make it into 2. Matter of fact, I know so there was one fan favorite from 1 that didn't make it into 2, and people were kind of upset about it. And one of them was my brother, because he loved Chief Thunder, but Chief Thunder didn't make it into 2.
Oh no, he had to die.
He had to die. Like most of the characters from 1 that did not make it into 2 died. That's why I tell people all the time, dude, I loved the story of Killer Instinct, because they made every character spot on that roster a part of the story, and it was consequences in that story, because he died, Chief Thunder died, Cinder died, Riptor died. I'm like, Jesus, they're just killing people.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, you never try to scratch the eye out of a guy with cybernetic implants in his arms. You do that, you die.
Yeah, so, pretty much. So I mean, and then the way they did too, they actually made it make sense. It was kind of stupid thinking about it now, but at the time, hell, it made sense. It was like, because
why not?
Yeah, why the hell not? But they made the story make sense, and the story actually, in my opinion, got a little bit deeper. So here we're gonna talk about favorite character. Now, I got 3 favorite characters in the entirety of Killer Instinct. So I'm gonna start this one off. My favorite go-to character is B Orchid.
Yeah,
and that's because I love that girl to death. She's my girl. Her combos to me are quick and easy to get out, and her breakers are easy to get out. Her ultra combo is a little bit tricky, but once you get it down, you're good to go with her. You really are.
Yeah, her ultra in what was it? Her ultra in Killer Instinct 2 didn't come out sometimes because it was the same as one of her light enders. And for whatever reason, that ender would come out instead of her ultra, and it was really weird.
Very weird.
Yeah, yeah, and Killer Instinct 2, it was only a problem because it was it was you did the ultra in with the same move that you would use to extend your combo out. So a lot of people started playing real fast with Orchid because she was a charge character and she was typically slow, but she had a quarter circle back move with her swords that basically lunge forward and you charge and you hit them with both of them at the same time. It's like a little lunge. Well, people use that to extend the combo. Basically, it's like a manual linker, and you could do it like 3 times to basically stall the combo and make it glitch out. So since most people did their ultra combos that way, it was hard to come back to do that motion, then go back to a charging motion, and then go back forward again with the same button. So it was really weird for people on the first game with her too. In this game, other than I haven't really done it too much with her, her combos are really, she's really manual heavy. But if you're gonna learn manuals with anybody, you probably learn them with her in Killer Instinct 2013. So
and she's easy to pick up too.
Just yeah, she's easy to pick up. Yeah, she's
real easy to pick up.
That's the point, and you know she ain't bad to look at either. So
yeah.
Killer Instinct 2, Janet Jackson, baby.
Yep. All right, Shadow. What about your favorite character from the series?
I'm biased, so Jago, but I would have to say that it was Orchid that got me started playing the game. Orchid was the character that I gravitated to the easiest in Killer Instinct 1. And once I started basically playing with her, I played with all the other charge characters. So I was real good with Saberwolf. I was slightly okay with Spinal, and I was really, really good with TJ Combo to the point where I learned all his glitch combos and learned to reset the game on people whenever they piss me off. So, I owe it to Orchid to introduce me to all the other charge characters in the game and to get me interested in it. To begin with, because it's just awesome seeing that girl do all the flip kicks upside your head in her ultra combo, and it kind of helps that her stage is a knockoff stage, so you fall in daggone like 90,000 feet because in Revision 3.1, which was the final version, it wasn't as bad, but in version 2.1 and earlier when the game first came out, you fall for like a good 30 seconds. Like, it's like, oh, combo, and you're just falling. And you won't stop falling. And then you finally hit the ground, and it's like, oh, God, that was just, like, horrible. So,
yeah, I remember that.
That kind of introduced me to it and got me eased in. I was like, man, I got to play this game, or I got to get in on this game. So, you know, that got me, I finally got into Jago. And when I got into Jago, he was like one of the trickiest characters to learn in the game. But that dude could put out some massive damage. Like, you could do like an 8-hit combo, but it take like 70% of somebody's life. So he was one of the characters where, you know, everybody hated to see him on the roster. Like, you're playing Killer Instinct 1, you pick Jago, the person knows you're really good at the game because you picked Jago. Because he was not a beginner character for anybody in that first game at all. He was like really difficult, and his timing was real difficult too. And they knew that you're pretty good, and they knew too you're gonna have issues with him basically spamming his combo break all the time, because you could literally just hit all 3 buttons and it will count as any one of the strength buttons you need to hit to do a combo breaker with him and only him. Yep. Everybody else, if you didn't hit that exact button that you needed to hit, you would miss the combo breaker and they just keep on comboing you. So with him, you could spam 3 buttons and you'd be basically guaranteed a combo breaker if you knew that it was with a punch or a kick. And his shadow moves were freaking awesome. He had a red fireball, he had shadow fireballs, he had shadow wind kick, he had shadow laser sword. All that shit did like double damage. It was just ridiculous. So if you were ever at a point where you're about to beat Jago, know that you're about to lose, because that's when he's the most dangerous. So, so for me, Jago definitely my favorite. I owe it to Orchid though to get me into the game, but Jago is my favorite because in 1 he's awesome, in 2 he's basically the Ryu of the game. and him and Orchid are kind of similar in that regard in that game for that reason. And in Killer Instinct 2013, there's a reason why he's the starter character. So he's a master of just about everything, and you can do some serious damage and piss off a lot of people with him. I just really hate his costume in 2013. So I go back to Killer Instinct 2 Jago costume. So yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, Zen, who's your favorite character in the series?
That'll have to go to Glacius. That'll definitely have to go to
Glacius.
Yes,
Okay.
Glacius.
Glacius was a pain in the ass in the first game. You could do some damage with him.
Exactly, man.
He annoyed a lot of people too.
Yep.
He did. Yes, he did.
It's just the way he moves, man. The transition from, being over there, then he turns in the puddle, just crosses a crazy amount of distance, gets up underneath you, and just freaking knocks the chin out from underneath you. Love it. It's like, what's better than one uppercut? Lots of uppercuts.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
No, just a quick nerd fact. Glacius and Riptor were only two characters in the game to have 3 fatalities.
Ah, okay.
Riptor had 3?
Riptor had 3, and
Had 3?
Glacius had 3.
I thought he had 2.
I can remember Riptor having 3, but then again,
Crap.
it's been a while.
Riptor had the fireball that would melt you. He would stab you with his tail. Then he had the other one where he just jumped on you and ate you.
I knew about the jumping on the Ichi, and I knew about the fireball. I did not know about the tail.
Yeah, he had the tail.
Huh.
Glacius had the ice lance that frees you. He had the puddle, the puddle that kills you. It would just bring you down in ice or whatever, and you would melt down and then turn into him. Then he had another one where he would just float over you as this big old like ice bubble, and he will wrap you in that and kill you. So they're the only 2 characters. We're talking about the arcade mode. I think they got rid of one of those fatalities in the Super Nintendo version for both characters. So memory or some crap like that they needed to save. So.
Oh.
All
But
right.
in arcade mode, they had three fatalities, which was awesome to me.
Yeah. Man, Glacius, he actually, aside from Cinder, was the first character I picked up, and I just started doing craziness, man. I just totally button mashing. I have no idea what the frick I'm doing, and all of a sudden, I'm doing these crazy moves. I'm turning the puddles of water or whatever liquid. I'm freaking doing multiple uppercuts. I'm holding people and throwing them around. I'm like, what's going on? Is that, am I really this good? So it gave me a really good feeling, and I kind of gravitated towards him and decided to play with him a lot more. Not necessarily master him, but I did get pretty good with him. But I am kind of biased, just the way you are with the Orchid. I am kind of biased because I tend to gravitate a bit more to ice-based characters in video games, which is why Sub-Zero is pretty much my main in Mortal Kombat, despite the fact that Ed Boon seems to love having Scorpion kick his ass every time they have an appearance.
Because Scorpion is the lead character. That's why they.
Because Ed Boon is Scorpion's voice.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, there's always that.
Yeah. I mean, Injustice. Killer Frost is one of my mains there. Ice is just cool, man. I just love ice and the effects that you can do with ice. Yeah. Frost was really good. Frost is really good.
Man.
It is really good. So Glacius, he's the man. I will be honest. I'm not in love with his new redesign, but I suppose once I get my hands on him and get put in some time, I'll be able to overlook that once I see some of those familiar moves that originally made me fall in love with the character come back and able to get them more easily without struggling, But I will tell you one thing: getting my hands back in this game again, I forgot how. Now I don't want to say easy, but accessible this game is. It just there is a learning curve. Don't get me wrong. There is a learning curve. There are some things you just cannot do on your first sitting, especially if you've been away from the series as long as I have. But it's just accessible, man. It makes you feel good. You pick up that combo, all of a sudden this dude screaming, insane combo, and I'm like, wow, I'm actually that good. Wow.
Yeah.
It's really gratifying. It's really gratifying.
Yeah, I've learned that in this new game, with the exception of ultra combos, the higher combos you do that are non-ultras in the middle of the game, the lower the voice gets. So instead of like hyper combo or crazy combo, once you start getting all the way up there, and he says godlike combo.
Yeah.
It's that he just says it as low as he can, like godlike. There's no point in even shouting it.
Yeah.
It is like, hey, you did more hits than an ultra combo could give you in a regular combo. Okay, you're godlike. Here you go.
But and then I'm going to tell you, like, Glacius, I'm not happy about his redesign either, but it does kind of grow on you after a while. In movement, seeing him in movement, it works, but yeah, I'm not a fan of that redesign either. So
I will say this: if you go ahead and buy the Ultra Combo Edition, you get all the costumes, so you get his Killer Instinct 2 costume, which actually does, it looks awesome. So
yeah, that one does. But yeah, that original design, yeah, I kind of hate that crap.
I hated everybody's original design except for Thunder.
Yeah, Thunder's original design looks alright. His other design is like, what the hell? So
Yeah.
Yeah, that in and of itself was crazy. But okay, last thing I want to talk about before we go into the wrap up is of the bosses of the two games. Which one gave you the most hell?
I gotta say Idol, without a doubt. Arcade Idol is so fucking cheap. Oh my god. The only way to beat him is to literally cheat the game. That's the only way to beat him.
Or get an ultra combo.
or get, like, for whatever reason, you can do flick flacks over and over again. It confuses the fuck out of him. He's just like, why are you doing flick flacks over and over again? Nobody fights like that. And he's just like, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat him. So,
and if you can but I will say this. If you can get him in that corner and you have, like, Orchid or Jago who can spam, like, flip flack and the wind kick, you should be fine. But, yeah Idol, that bastard, yeah.
He's like, hey, I'm big and slow and dumb, but all my moves have more speed and priority than yours, even after you've already attacked.
Yeah.
He's on the ground, right? He's on the ground, and you're trying to go ahead and do, like, a wind kick before he wakes up, so as soon as he gets up, it connects. So he at least, at the bare minimum, has to block it, right? No, he gets up and does a charge over your wind kick, and it magically hits you.
Yep.
And of course, no one hit ends without a combo, right? So yeah, he has to do that, and then he charges and gains his life back. That shit's great.
Yeah, that was cheating. That's when you like, okay, y'all doing this because I'm about to win. And y'all trying to get the rest of my money.
I tell you what made it worse, right? So you're fighting him on two different stages. You can fight on the big bridge or whatever, so you have more space, more distance to cover and stuff like that, right? Or you're fighting on the small enclosed space and you're fighting him or whatever. So you're fighting this dude and he's basically throwing everything back at you, and you can't beat him because he's always got more priority and everything else. So you're like, I know what, I'm gonna make him. I'm gonna play Street Fighter with him, and I'm gonna play the distance game. You try to throw a fireball at him, he sends it right back at you with the club, and you're like, what the? Like, what? Like, y'all had to add this too? Really? Like, come on.
Yep, that was rareware trolling.
Oh man, that was the worst, man. I would definitely say, like, I don't know if any of you guys faced Shadow Jago yet?
I have. Not fun.
Okay. It's not fun. He's trollish too, but it's a lot easier to beat him. You know what you need to do to beat him. You basically have to turtle, right?
Yeah.
But you can't turtle with Idol because Idol will just wait until you're one frame away from ducking and then do an overhead and it's over. Like he every move that you do, and the only way to beat him is to glitch him out. Like, literally, that's the only way to do it. So I had a bit of a time with Shadow Jago. It took me all of like 10 minutes to beat him. I'm like, okay, so you're doing this and you're doing this, and everything that I try to do you counter break, or if I try to buffer a counter breaker, you never fall for it. You just let me drop the combo, and then you start away. So I'm like, okay, that's what you're gonna do. Fine, I'm just gonna punish you whenever I can punish you, and do tick damage until you die. And that's literally what I did until I got pissed off and saw that I threw him, and he received no damage. Like in the middle of the fight, it was just like, I'm not receiving no damage here. I'm like, man, what the fuck is this shit? So, Gargus is a pushover. I don't know if either one of you played Killer Instinct 2 arcade mode, but Gargus is a pushover. Well, he's a pushover on Killer Instinct Gold also. So, unless you play on the Nintendo 64, the highest CPU setting, you're not gonna have any trouble fighting that dude. So I would say if anybody's gonna pick, it's gonna be between Shadow Jago and Idol, and to me, it's Idol. So,
yeah, gotcha.
Hands down.
Zen, you feel the same way?
Without a doubt, Idol, man. Without a doubt. If there's anything I remember about that game, it's how frustrated I got anytime I needed to face that dude, man. Gargus is a pushover. I'm sorry. That is the way it is. I'm searching my memories right now, and Gargus somehow, unless as Shadow said, you put him to the highest level, and you're really confident in being able to get there to him and fight him at that level. It's like, you know, I have no memories associated with Gargus and frustration. I just don't. You lose a couple times on the higher levels, okay, sure. I mean, you're expected to lose, right? But the third, the fourth, the fifth time, you're good. But Idol, no.
Idol, man. Like I said earlier in the cast, Idol. The only time I ever beat Idol was when I actually pulled off an ultra combo, and I actually hit it. I hit it with Jago. Some kind of way I got him into the corner. I don't know how I did it, but some kind of way I got him into the corner, and I lit into him, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I actually won. I was like, damn, my arms hurt.
Have either one of you seen both of the ending both of the death animations for Idol? Like, have you beat them like standing up, or you beat them by knocking them off the bridge level?
I saw him by knocking him off the bridge. I didn't ever saw the standing up one.
Yeah, to me, the standing up one is kind of the more I just beat your ass kind of ending, because it was like, you know what, I ain't even gonna knock you. I'm just gonna hit you where you stand, and I'm gonna make you just melt. And that's, you know, that's kind of when you beat him like that, he just stands there and fire's just flaming from his head. Like his head is like on fire, burning. And the special effects are so bright in that game, so all you see is like this bright white in the middle and like fire going all around it. And he's just fucking smoking the whole time, and then it cuts to a FMV of his head melting, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah, I preferred him falling off the bridge because he had hurt my feelings, so I preferred him fall off the bridge. I preferred him fall off the bridge simply because he hurt my feelings. I mean, just being real. So
somebody got to die.
Yeah, and I actually won this time. So bye bye. So okay, so last thing we want to talk about is like the investment. Now, before the one came out in 2013. It had been a long time, and as a lot of people know, Rareware was one of Nintendo's go-to second-party developers, and Microsoft went and bought them in 2002, I think. And one of the things that I know I thought was that we were gonna get the Killer Instinct 3 that we were promised that was coming, but it never came until now. So, do you think it's one of those series that Microsoft should actually seriously invest in, since it is one of those exclusives that they got via the Rare buyout?
I definitely think they should, but I don't think they should milk it. I think they should do what Rare did. What Rare was going to do was probably not make one, because they were really waiting on a definitive way to change how the game should be played.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft completely forgot Rare made that game, and they went to Double Helix like, hey, Street Fighter 4 is in 3D. Y'all can make Killer Instinct in 3D. Did you guys make this game? Double Helix was like, no. Okay, we'll make it anyway. So here we sit with this pretty decent game, and they're still over for Double
Uh-oh.
Helix now since they got bought. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see them going forward with it with a whole nother company that's not Rare. But yeah, this franchise could be pretty awesome as long as the way that they're doing it with the whole season thing is probably what I didn't expect them to do, but it actually it seems like it's bringing more anticipation out. So people are like waiting now to see what the season 2 characters are going to be, even though we know what most of them are going to be. But it kind of builds up a little bit more excitement because it's a tournament-based game. A lot of people are going to be more into tournaments this time around with this game. So when tournaments go by seasons, so what better way to do this than to release the game season-wide and have major updates in between instead of having, a calendar release game that a person has to pay $60 for every year, and it's a fighting game that's exactly the same, aka Street Fighter. Why are you doing that? So it's kind of a different take on it, and I think that business practice is actually going to work for that game.
Okay.
So we'll see how that works. I just don't know where they would go from there for a major change in the game because it's a 2D fighting game, and I don't think there's too much you could really do with regards to making the graphics look better or making the gameplay any more sound. I mean, you have combos, insane combos. You have visceral fighting. You have special moves. You have ultra combos. You have combo breakers. You have counter breakers to punish people that do combo breakers a lot. You have shadow counters that punish people that do chip damage a lot. So the whole game is balanced so much. I don't think there's a special feature you could really add to it after this, to be honest with you. I think it's really just a roster update.
Just a roster update.
From that point forward, I don't see another way to really change the gameplay without making it not Killer Instinct, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Rare kind of plateaued, and they were like, we don't know what to do with this, so we're done.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Because they are perfect. They were perfectionists. So that team that was there, they were perfectionists to a T. So if they couldn't figure out what they could do next, they just left it at that. So yeah, I can see that. Zen, what about you? You think it's one of these games that Microsoft should invest in?
They should, but as Shadow said, they should not milk it because I will agree with him because that's a new perspective I hadn't really thought about the whole seasons thing. I just thought they were looking for a quick buck. I mean, it's a business, right? And it's Microsoft. They're hardly they're hardly the angels of the industry. So I thought that was the angle, but what Shadow said made perfect sense when you apply that logic to it. So this is better than just releasing something annualized and it becomes half-baked after a while. It's just not necessary. I mean, Street Fighter is a very good example because, hell, I'm still waiting for the Alpha Mega Ultra Edition to come out on PS4 and Xbox One because you know it is. Come on, so don't play. You know it is. So this is a better way of doing it, and many more franchises, games that are annualized, should follow this business structure and just add on to the game. And when the game just becomes too old and clearly outdated, that's when you make a new one. So that is how I see Killer Instinct going. I can't really see beyond into the future until if there's going to be anything beyond season 2. Maybe Shadow can answer that, or what he thinks would be included in that. I really want to know, by the way. But outside of that, no. I see them making more Killer Instincts. I see them trying to improve on the formula that they established here. And I see it going just the way they have. I don't see it being milked. And if it does end up getting milked, well, that's a shame. Because we're going to end up getting tired of something we waited years for. I waited until I got tired of waiting, and then I stopped waiting. I stopped caring, and then I got it. So, yeah.
Well, for me, I think it's one of those ones that they should invest in, and it's one of those titles. When you say the name Rareware, people our age, we remember what they brought to the game. So when
Yep.
Microsoft bought them, they were like, dude, I don't know if Microsoft bought them for purely pay reasons. I'm not gonna get into that right now, but my thing was, I'm like, you have a veritable list of franchises that can easily be your go-to mascot franchises, and they did nothing with them. I mean, nothing with them. So to get KI back, I'm like, you know what? They should invest in it, and they should go back and look and see those other properties that they do own, since they do own Rare, and invest in those as well. But I think now, and I do like the way they got this set up, because like you said, Shadow, it, going by seasons makes sense for this type of game.
Yep.
I mean, because that way you can do it. You can keep the Evo people happy, because you got to remember, you got to keep the Evo players happy too, because they they get crazy sometimes. So
Balance that character. Nerf that character.
yeah, so you got to keep them happy, and the best way to do that is probably give them updates, give them seasonal stuff, let them know what's coming up at their Evo events, stuff like that. So yeah, this business model, it works for this particular type of fighting game. So yeah, I'm totally in agreement, and I think they should invest in it. I think they should keep the series going, but yeah, they should not milk it, because I don't believe you should milk any franchise. Like you should actually like take time and care into each franchise, because the thing about KI 1 and 2, especially for me, was they actually took time and care into those games. And you could tell that they did. So
Mm-hmm.
that being said, I think they should keep it going, but they should actually make sure that they take time and care. Because I think Iron Galaxy is doing it now, since Double Helix got bought out by
Yeah, that's what it was. I was trying to name Iron Galaxy.
yeah, Iron Galaxy is not a bad. They're not a bad studio. They're actually pretty decent. So, I'll put it to you like this right here. I have more faith in Iron Galaxy than I do in Double Helix. So, and that's just me being honest. So, yeah, I think this is a good investment for Microsoft, and honestly, Phil, you might want to take a look at some of the other stuff. Jet Force Gemini, you might want to take a look at some of that other stuff, that they got that you can actually do something with, instead of just letting it sit. Rareware just had a lot of good titles, so that deserve being brought back around. But that's it for our spotlight tonight. Guys, thank you for joining. Shadow, why don't you give your outro?
All right, it's Shadow Files Infinite. You know what it is. Come see me on YouTube and the Gamers at Large Network.
All right, and Zen.
All right, you already know what it is. And then the Zen Gamer. Head on over to the ZGZ and subscribe if you like what you see. If you don't like what you see, give it a chance. Perhaps you will one day, but stick around. I'm sure you'll find something you like.
All right, and thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to catch the Gamers at Large podcast on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm hosting this week, so we're going to have a good time on that episode. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also check me out at Twitter at J Fleming, all together. And I will catch you guys on Sunday. Peace.